Now, the Met Police Chief, Sir Mark Rowley, has said that hate crime laws probably need redrawing in the wake of a pro-Palestine rally where jihad chants were heard.
Yes, Sir Mark said police were ruthless in tackling anybody who puts their foot over the legal line. But he added, our job is to enforce that line. Parliament's job is to draw that line. Maybe some of the lines aren't in the right place.
Downing Street said there were, quote, no plans to give police more power. Indeed, Minister for Policing Chris Philp told reporters that powers are already in place for the police to have at their disposal.
There are very clear laws in place which ban encouraging people to commit acts of terrorism. Certain organisations, including Hamas and Hezbollah, are prescribed. That means they're banned, and being a member of those organisations or glorifying them is an offence as well. There is also quite strong public order legislation on the statute books already, including Section 18 of the Public Order Act, which criminalises inciting racial hatred.
Interesting there what Chris Philp had to say. Already laws in place inciting violence and racial hatred. So with us is former Labour MP Simon Danczuk, joins us in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Clearly, it's a difficult one for the police. Do you think that they struck the right balance?
No, I don't think they have at all. I don't think it's a difficult one. I think the reality is that the police need to get on with policing effectively. And Sir Mark Rowley knows exactly what the vast majority of the public think. They think that the police should be arresting people who are inciting terrorism, who are encouraging hatred on the streets of London. And so they need to make some arrests. And I said this at the beginning of this whole incident in the Middle East, that we would have problems on our streets. We have over time imported Islamic extremism over a number of years. There's been a failure of multiculturalism. Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, is exactly right to say that that's failed. We've let preachers in mosques run rife in terms of preaching hate. We are harbouring Hamas organisers in central London. This is the situation that we're in. So in the short term, we need to make arrests. That's what the police should have been doing during these protests. And in the longer term, we really need some political leadership where somebody comes forward and starts redrawing the boundaries around what's acceptable and what isn't acceptable.
So why do you, can I just ask, why do you think the police have been so light touch? We saw after the incident where we heard jihad being chanted on the streets of central London, that in their statement they said jihad has many different meanings.
Yeah. I think it's all around the police having the wrong culture and the wrong agenda. And that's what we see with Sir Mark Rowley, and we've seen it before, and I'll give you a great example, or a terrible example in actual fact. I was the MP for Rochdale, large Muslim population there. We have the Rochdale grooming scandal occur, and the first thing that the Greater Manchester Chief Constable did is come to Rochdale and say, I have arrived to celebrate multiculturalism. That's what he said. In the light of the Rochdale grooming scandal, he couldn't have got his words more inappropriate. But that's they focus more on being social workers than they do on being police officers, and that's a real concern.
Do you think the problem here with Suella Braverman's comments, because there were a lot of people criticising them who said, hang on, you're the daughter of immigrants, the Prime Minister is the son of immigrants, hasn't multiculturalism succeeded? Do you think that when some people hear the word multiculturalism, they think a multiracial society, and when other people hear multiculturalism, they think parallel cultures existing together and it's nothing to do with the colour of people's skin? Are there sort of two parallel conversations that people are having?
I think that's a really interesting point, actually, and I think there is. I would agree with you that there is confusion about what is acceptable. But a wider point related to that is that the Labour Party really get off the hook on this issue, because I am in no doubt. I was in the Labour Party for very many years, and the reality is that they'd be even more relaxed about these issues, and have been in the past. But nobody's challenging Keir Starmer at the moment, or because he's rehearsing for the big job. He wants to be Prime Minister. What's his view in all of this? He won't want to see, I can guarantee he won't want to see protesters arrested. If we knew the truth, he wouldn't want that. He wouldn't want stronger legislation. They've opposed any stronger legislation in terms of public order offences. But he's not being challenged about any of that.
And yet what the Labour Party left would say is that Keir Starmer has been, well, I suppose they'd argue he's flip-flopped, but they'd also say that he's been perhaps more anti-Palestinian than his immediate predecessor. Is he walking an impossible line there, where people on the right will say he's not proposing stronger laws, and people on the left will say he's too supportive of Israel?
Oh, yeah, he's completely trying to walk a tightrope on this. A lot of the electorate, the Muslim community, vote disproportionately for Labour. He doesn't want to upset them, so he's trying to walk this tightrope. But it's not acceptable, because the reality is, by giving in to those groups within society, we've ended up with the situation that we're in now, where extremism is being propagated throughout the country, where protesters can say what they want, and it shows that multiculturalism hasn't worked.
I think some of our politicians may well be intimidated. Just on what some of the things that Sir Mark Rowley said, interesting. He suggested that perhaps the law should change. Is that his place? And also he said that because the police can't be expected to enforce taste and decency. Interesting choice of words there.
Yeah, well, it does seem to be, it's a good point that you make. He's sort of, he's entering the political realm, isn't he? The minister, the policing minister, was quite clear. There's legislation there that enables the police to take action, and that's what the public want. They want the police to take action, and this isn't the first time they've been inactive, or where they've took action that's inappropriate and people don't think they should be taking action. The culture within the British police is completely wrong at the top echelons of the various forces that we have across the country. I think on the front line, police officers know what's right and what's wrong, but I think at a senior level they just keep getting it wrong, and this is another example of it.
So when the policing minister stands there in Downing Street yesterday and says the police have these laws on the books, they should just enforce them, and then when the head of the Met Police says we don't have these laws, you need to make new laws so that we can, who's right there, the policing minister or the head of the Met Police?
The policing minister is right in this instance, absolutely. We need more direct action by the police. That's what the public are calling for, and that's what they want to see. And all they had to do is, early on in these protests, is make some arrests, and they would have succeeded, because others who were coming onto the streets would have known that they would get arrested if they acted inappropriately.
It's interesting you say that, because yesterday we spoke to Shabnam Chowdhury, who was a former Met superintendent, and she said the police made the right call.
Oh, well, I've no doubt. She's obviously a member of the higher echelons of the police force and reaches this conclusion, but it's just wrong. The public just do not buy into this form of policing. You know, I saw a clip on social media of a guy climbing up a scaffold, waving the flag. He climbs back down it and he's handed his flag back by the police and to go on his way. Why would you allow protesters to do things that just aren't acceptable? And it's almost as though the police are facilitating it. That's how the public think.
I think there's a lot of fear, particularly when these are political issues that are so divisive and they mobilise different communities in this way. Very difficult. Thank you.
I think it's also important to note that there have been a number of arrests for people who perhaps have been very clearly over the line, but I think there has been criticism that that line might have been drawn too far as well. So I think the police would say there that they have made one or two arrests, although, of course, clear political criticism over how far those arrests go.
Yes, well, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. We were going to get on to Rishi Sunak's first 365 days in office, but I think that was very interesting indeed, so thank you for your input there.